Hey ladies and gentlemen, I am Dru Blair and I'm here on the third day of our textures class. What we're doing now, we've just finished the Superman logo. We're not quite finished, but we're pretty close to it. And what I want to do now is add some water droplets on a metallic surface. So I've got a little mask here with some various circles in it. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to apply some paint around the edges, some black paint around the edges here to make this look a little more like water droplets. So you see right here, I'm just spraying around the edges here like that. I'm just going to run around the edge here, and then I'm going to flip this over. We're just going to go around the other edge. I'm trying to pretty much create just a round circle around it, but I don't want to go all the way around, not at least this with great density. After I get this around here, I'm going to go into the bottom of it, and I'm just going to put a little bit of a coloration right here, just a little dark right there. Okay, let's do the same thing on this one. Now the tricky part is keeping the interior clean, because overspray can be a problem there, so I don't want to go too crazy with the interior of it. So I'm just protecting that with this mask the best I can. And of course, I'm going to blur one edge of it. Okay, like that. There we go, like that. And I'm going to go ahead and darken this side here too. There we go. And if you want to do the other side here, it's optional. I just want to put my finger in there, see if I can block that. Or I have an optional friend over here, my little friend called the mask. Okay, now that mask can go in there and block off some of those other areas like that, and do a much better job of protecting my assets here. All right, that's real important. All right, so let's go over here to this side too and do that. Let's find a little circle that fits that. All right, there we go, like that. Okay, so now I've got that in there. And what I'd like to do now, I think, is put a highlight in there. Let's take a peek under there and see what we've got, okay? Let's see what we're looking at. And this is kind of just the beginning of it, but so we shouldn't expect too much, but we're going to see something, okay? So you can kind of see the beginnings. But what we really need to hear is some specular highlights, because that's what's really going to make it look realistic. And I think what I'm going to do is lean the specular highlights along this edge here just to give it a little more believability. Okay, you guys see that? It's almost working in one of these. That's one here is a highlight going through it just by chance. But I'm going to go ahead and do something else. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this blade. I'm going to put a specular highlight on it like this, right in there. That's got a little specular highlight there. I'm going to put one in each of them. Each of them is going to get their own little specular highlight there. Maybe I'll put two in this one because it's such a good boy. There we go. Maybe a big one and a little one there. So that gives the illusion that there's something going on there that's wet because they're tiny little specular highlights. Then I'm going to take let's put this back on there like that. Then I'm going to take some white, and I'm going to come in with the white and do a little bit more on the back side of it, okay? So the white is here. It's in another gun. I'm just going to go ahead and apply this white on the back side of this like this, okay? I'm going to get on this side. I'm just going to bounce it off the edge. So really close. Let's get an edge where I can see some paint coming out. There we go. So just a dot of it, all right? This airbrush is kind of clogged up, I think, but we'll make it work. Right there, okay? So there we go. We get a little bit of white on that. It's not much, okay? So it's a little touch of it, okay? Let's try something different on this other one. Let's look at take an edge of one of these masks here and get a little more aggressive with it and see if we can make a little bit hotter highlight. So I'm going to go in here and just spray that. Right there. You can see when I flood the mask, it's safe because I'm only flooding the mask. I'm not really getting all cray-cray on the water droplet itself. So let's see if we did anything there. We'll just flip this over a little bit, and we can see. Okay, yeah, we got a little effect on it, and that's feeling pretty good. You can see kind of a little bit of specular highlight on the front and a little bit on the back. If you want to pop it up a little more, we can do this. We can just scratch a little more like here with the blade. One of the things about this paper is that it tolerates the blade, whereas a lot of other paper really doesn't handle the blade. You can scratch other paper, but the problem with that is it falls apart pretty quickly. Let me talk a little bit more about my airbrush. Some people are asking questions about the airbrush I use. This is an Iwata CMSB. It's about 35 years old. It's got a side cup on it. That hits the name SB on it. And it's also got worn off areas in it. And this worn off area is actually from the way I hold it. When I hold an airbrush, I lay my finger over the top and tuck my thumb right in there. So when I move my finger up and down, it moves the trigger back a very, very small amount. And that gives me more control than I would if I had another type of airbrush. The other modification here is by a friend of mine, Marcus Eisenhuth, and what he did is he shortened this trigger so there's less of a throw. If I had a tall trigger, my throw would be greater, and therefore it wouldn't be as efficient. It'd also be less of fine motor skill. But by shortening the trigger and having less of a throw, like they do in the Ferraris and other high-end cars with shorter shifters, this gives me an advantage, not a mechanical advantage. I don't need a mechanical advantage, but I do have more finesse this way, and it's more of a fine motor skill. So this allows me to make much finer lines with it and have much more control than I would normally have. Of course, I like the side cut for obvious reasons. First, when I look down the airbrush, it's not sitting on top, okay? When I hold the airbrush like this, my finger's not running into a top-mounted cup. Secondly, I can tilt this to, if I want to tilt the airbrush up, I can tilt the airbrush down, I can adjust it with the cup, I can pop this cup off to clean it, and I can also make use of the fact that it's a very frugal device here with the side cut, because it only takes 2 drops of paint to prime this airbrush, whereas other types of airbrush requires more paint just to get it operating. Okay, so that's one of the reasons I like this. So while I'm at it, let's go ahead and make another mark on here. While you guys are looking, I'm just going to go ahead and throw another mark. I want to make some scuff marks on here. So I want to take a torn piece of paper like this, make a little rip in it, and I'm just going to make a little edge here. Let's just make an edge here. Because remember I talked a little bit about wear and tear and things like that. I'm going to create a gap in it. Can you guys see that gap okay? I'm going to spray in the gap like this. And what I want to do is create some wear and tear. I got a little bit of color coming out I didn't expect. Let's make that happen. There we go. A little wear and tear in here. And what we're doing is creating some stress on the metal. So I put that little mark right there, and now what I like to do is put a highlight on it. Now I can use various tools, but my preference here is to use the blade. The blade's going to make a nice little cut, a very fine little line right there. Beautiful, okay. And I'm not going to make a continuous line. I'm going to break that up into little dots and things like that to make it a little more interesting. Maybe a little pucker up there with it, but mainly at the bottom, because that's where it's catching the light, okay. So that's really, I want to add some stress marks in there. That'll help. And I would sprinkle those stress marks into other places. Now, there's a little mark right down here at the bottom that got, I think that was a little spit mark or something like that. Who knows what was going on there. That little round shape right there, let's just go ahead and make use of that. So I'm taking something, instead of getting rid of that, I'm going to try to turn it into something useful, okay? So again, I don't try to draw a smooth circle around the edge. I try to make a bumpy circle around it, make it a little worn and a little more used so it looks a little more realistic, okay? All right, and that'll do it for now. It's great to have you with us. Tune in next time. Tomorrow we'll be doing some fire. We're going to show you the project we'll be working on here. This is the burning S shape, okay? S for, that stands for Sam, okay, or Simon, or Sue, or whatever you want it to stand for, okay? Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. Take care.